Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So, today we're going to be talking about buying and selling real estate and some of the terms that go along with the whole purchasing and selling process. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself. My name is Chris Mitchell. I'm a real estate agent with Kirk McDonald Realtors. I live in North Fort Worth with my beautiful wife and daughter. I have been licensed in real estate since 2004. However, I've only been selling real estate for about the past year or so. Right after receiving my license in 2004, I did sell briefly part-time before moving on to the corporate relocation side of real estate. And what I did there was I actually helped employees transfer from one state to the next with their companies. After that, I moved on to the technology side of real estate. And what I did there was actually managed a group of support agents that supported the property where service. So that's a little bit about me. What I'd like to do is get to know each one of you guys. So we're going to start here, and if you would just stand up, give us your name, and if there's anything else you'd like for us to know about you, go for it, and then we'll just kind of work our way down the line here. So go right ahead.
Paula Pittsinger.
Thank you, Paula. Sir?
Kirk McDonald.
Thank you, Kirk. Ma'am?
My name is Barbara Tumlin.
Thanks, Barbara. Okay, so we have Paula, Kirk, and Barbara. Excellent, excellent. So, quick question for everybody, and by show of hands, have any of you ever bought or sold real estate? Okay, all of you guys, okay, all right. Everyone's bought and sold? Great, great. So, how was that process? Did you enjoy the experience? Okay. So today we're going to be covering a couple of topics regarding really making the offer to purchase real estate. So a couple of those topics: earnest money, option money, financing, and the appraisal. So all of these terms you're going to be you either have heard of whenever you went to purchase, or you're going to hear of whenever you decide to purchase. So we're going to go into each one of these in detail, and if there's any questions you have, feel free to raise your hand, ask. However, we're real casual, so we'll just move right along here. So, earnest money. So, what earnest money is? It's actually a deposit that you make along with the offer. Now, it's sort of like a down payment. A lot of people confuse earnest money with option, which we'll get to option money here in a moment. But again, earnest money is sort of like a down payment. It shows the seller that you're serious about purchasing their home. A couple of important things to keep in mind with the earnest money. So the amount of the earnest money is actually negotiable. The check is made out to the title company, and they actually hold it. They do cash a check once your offer is accepted, and they hold it in a what you call an escrow account. Now, the earnest money itself, it is released at consummation of the offer. So whether that means you close and that money is kind of rolled into your purchase price, and you get credit for that on your closing disclosure, or if you decide to back out during the option period, and we'll get to what the option period is here in a moment, you can actually request for that money to be released back to you. Okay. Any questions about earnest money? Good deal. Option money. Okay, so what option money is it's a set amount that's also negotiable, that's tied to a time frame that's also negotiable. And what this does is it gives the buyer the right to terminate that contract during that option period without risking their earnest money. So essentially, if you terminate your contract during that option period, you can then request for that earnest money to be released back to you. Now, if you terminate outside of that option money, your seller may have the right to that earnest money. So that's why that option period is so important. Now, a couple things: it's non-refundable. Now, earnest money is refundable as long as you stick to the terms of the agreement. The option money is non-refundable, so that's just cash that you're handing over to the seller to purchase that option time frame for you to be able to back out of that offer if you need to. Now, why would you back out of an offer? Typically during the option period, you're doing things like inspections, you're taking a second look at the property, sometimes you're going in and measuring, sometimes during that option period another property that fits you better comes on the market. So all these are reasons why you may want to back out of that purchase agreement with that first seller. Now, the time frame is actually negotiable between you and the seller. So it can be as little as 3 days or even 1 day, 0 days even if you don't want an option period, and it can be as long as 10, 15, however many days you really decide upon. Now, the amount that you're giving to that seller for that option does change based on a couple of different things. One, what you negotiate with them with. Two, the time. So for instance, if you want a 3-day option period, it may cost you X amount of dollars, versus if you want a 10 or 15-day option, you may have to pay a larger amount there. So your option period actually terminates at 5 p.m. on that last day of your option term. Okay? So next we have financing. So financing is the big thing. So without financing, you essentially can't buy a house unless you're paying cash. Now, not a lot of people have cash, so most buyers are going to fall into one of these categories, either the VA loan, the FHA loan, or the conventional loan. Now, each one of these loans has their upside and their downside. So we're going to start with VA loans. So VA loans are available to qualifying veterans. It's a zero down loan. You can often roll your closing costs into the loan. Now, from the seller's perspective, the loan requires an appraisal, which truthfully all these loans require an appraisal. But one thing that the VA loan, or two things actually, the VA loan requires that the other loans don't is, one, VA actually comes out and inspects the property. They want to make sure that the property is in good condition. Now, they're not looking at things like roofs and trusses and things like that. They've got their set of criteria that they're looking at for the property for the purposes of their VA inspection. Beyond that, VA does require a wood destroying insect report. So essentially you have to have a pest guy out. They're going to look for wood destroying insects, so that could be anything from ants to termites to any other bugs or critters out there that's going to destroy wood. And they're going to give this report to VA, the pest inspector will. VA will then request the seller to make certain repairs to alleviate some of those situations that are conducive to wood destroying insects. Now, conventional, let's VA. So VA is a 3.5% down loan. So basically what that means is if you're buying a house at $100,000, you need to put down $3.5 or $3,500 in order to qualify for this loan. Now, you can put down more if you have it, but this loan is reserved more for first-time home buyers or those that have not owned a home in the past 3 years, as well as those who have small down payments. FHA also requires an appraisal. There is an FHA inspection. They don't require the wood destroying insect report. Now, as far as the FHA loan goes, it's one that a lot of people use, especially on their first time purchasing, mainly because it's easier to qualify for than a conventional loan, and you're not having to put as much money down as you would a conventional loan. So that brings us to conventional loans. So conventional loan is sort of the catch-all bucket. So if you can't qualify or don't fit into the VA criteria or the FHA criteria, and if you don't have cash, conventional loan is the loan that you're going to be using. Now, there are loan products out there that will allow you to go conventional with as little as 5% down. Now, you're going to pay a lower interest rate with a conventional loan than you would with an FHA loan. They also require an appraisal, but conventional loans don't do inspections. They don't send their people out to look at the property. So on the seller side, that's the more attractive loan a more attractive loan than VA or FHA. And of course with cash, if you have cash, you can buy it. You can buy the property. Uh, thing with cash, there's some risk to the buyer. So the buyer will not have an automatic appraisal done for you. Now, why does that matter? We're going to get to appraisals, but that matters because the appraisal actually looks at how much the property is worth versus what you're paying. So let's move on to appraisals here. So what are appraisals? Very good question. So an appraisal is a very educated guess as to how much your property is worth at that time. The value can be derived using a couple of different approaches. They're a part of every financed transaction. So VA, FHA, conventional, or really any other loan product that a reputable lender has available to you. Appraisals are very different from a CMA. And what a CMA, it's a comparative market analysis. So basically that's the report that your agent gives to you that's kind of their opinion of what your house would sell for. CMAs are really simplistic compared to appraisals. Now, both will look at comps and look at comps in your neighborhood that are comparable to your property. The one thing that the appraisals and the appraiser does is they actually make line item adjustments for that property based on what your property contains versus what the other property contains. So, for example, if your property is listed at 100,000 and there's another property that's sold at 105, and they're both comparable, so they square foot's about the same size, age is about the same size, number of bedrooms and baths are about the same. However, this property over here, say, has no neighbors in the back and is in front of a park. So no neighbors in the back, no neighbors in the front, beautiful view, right? And your property is an interior lot, right? Neighbors on each side, back and the front. What the appraiser will do is give this property a increase of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever their system says, compared to your property. So essentially, this 105 is compared to your 100 is more valuable because it does have that different view. Now, what you need to know. So, regardless of the amount that you offer for a property, now this is a property that is financed. Okay, so if you're financing a property and you offer, say, $300,000 for this property, but the appraiser goes out and appraises the property for $280. Okay, there's a difference. $280 appraisal, $300 agreed upon price. There's a gap there, a $20,000 gap, right? There's a couple of different options that you have. The first option is, and from the buyer's side, it's the one that makes the most sense, is for that seller to bring their price down to the appraised value, right? Good deal. Good deal for the buyer. Seller's not as happy as they could be, but hey, it is what it is, right? The appraisal is the appraisal. The other option is this. The buyer can come out of pocket 20 grand to come up, or to make the difference between the 280 to the 300. That right there is the buyer knowingly overpaying for a property. It's not recommended in all situations. Very few buyers, one, have the extra cash, and two, are in a situation where they have to buy that house. So that's great for the seller, not so great for the buyer. The third option is we meet somewhere in the middle. We agree upon a sales price between the 280 and the 300. So essentially, the buyer is overpaying for the property, but not as much as they would if they would have come up to the seller's asking. And in turn, the seller brings their price down, so we meet somewhere in the middle. So naturally, that is ideal for both parties. As a real estate agent, if I'm representing the seller, I'm going for the buyer to come up. If I'm representing the buyer, I'm vowing for vying for the agent or the seller to come down. One other thing you need to know about appraisals, they're a part of pretty much every loan. Even cash properties will sometimes have an appraisal done just to make sure that person who has the cash isn't overpaying for the property. So that about wraps up appraisals. Now, in summary, so earnest money, part of the program, part of the offer. It's the money that you give to title as a down payment to show the seller how serious you are about purchasing their property. Option money is the money you pay to the seller for the option of getting out of that contract and not risking your earnest money. Okay, financing, it's the money. It's where the money. Without financing or cash, you can't buy the property. And lastly, appraisals is an educated guess on what that property is worth based on comps and adjustments that the appraiser performs. Any questions about any of this? No. Paula, you good? Okay, awesome. So that concludes everything. So I wanted to thank everybody for attending. If you have any questions, give me a call. Phone number is 817-692-3678. Give me a call if you have any questions about this presentation or about any real estate needs. And again, I wanted to thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a great day.